to another episode of All Things Considered Franchising. I'm your host, Scotty Milas. All Things Considered Franchising is powered by ScottMilasFranchiseCoach.com. All Things Considered Franchising is a podcast dedicated and devoted to the entrepreneur, people seeking and looking to become business owners, invest in franchises or independent opportunities. We're here to answer questions on opportunities, brands, and answer your questions about being a business owner. ScottMilasFranchiseCoach.com is a consulting organization I founded many years ago that helps people build the business model and then introduce them to the brands and opportunities that potentially fit. Today, we continue our series, our last episode, speaking with franchise development managers over at Horsepower Brands, and I'm pleased to welcome another young gun to the podcast, Steve Reppert, who is director of franchise development with iFOAM, another Horsepower brand. Steve, welcome to the show.
Absolutely, thanks so much, man. Looking forward to the opportunity to connect and talk franchising.
Now, you and I have rubbed elbows at a couple of conferences. You have kind of been in the industry. I kind of look at you as one of those people that's kind of under the radar, which is what I like. I like under the radar type brands and people that represent it, and not these big blimps on radars. And iFOAM has become one of those sleeper companies that's got a lot of traction. But before we jump into iFOAM and your role and a little bit about, the best fit for people who are looking for businesses, iFOAM, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this? How did you connect with Horsepower? Your background as an entrepreneur, kind of go from there.
Yeah. I'll try to tell a quick story in this category, but while I was actually in college, I got a job at a nutrition store. And kind of health, fitness, vitamins, that type of stuff. And really it was just because that seemed exciting. But they were a growing business. And actually they started franchising right at about the time I graduated. I worked at the original corporate locations. So I figured, why not, right? Went to college, why not go figure something out? So I moved away from my home area, built a location. I was maybe one of the pioneers of that brand, I guess is what, franchising term. I was maybe one of the first 10 franchisees or so. That went really well, and I expanded, went and moved to another state after that, and ran those businesses multi-state for about 10 years. So had a lot of fun kind of along the way, and somewhere along there decided to have some kids, and the idea of moving back to Nebraska started to make more sense too. So sold most of those, but still own one today.
Great. Franchising has become kind of that big blimp on the radar for people who are interested in entrepreneurship. I kind of look at it as, if you're interested in being a business owner, building a legacy, potential wealth, and you want to start on third base versus being an independent, starting at home and trying to get around all the bases, franchising is a great option. So tell us a little bit about iFOAM and how it fits into someone's, hey, I really should look at this brand to become a business owner in iFOAM.
Yeah, I think franchising gives you a lot of space because you can be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. But more specific to iFOAM, as I look across this and just kind of awareness of different types of industries you can get into, it checks a lot of boxes for me because I don't think that a lot of people think about insulation. Obviously, it's hidden, right? It's out of sight, out of mind. It's between the wall category, between the exterior wall and the interior wall. But what's personally exciting to me about this is it's the energy industry. Doesn't take a fancy crystal ball to realize that building codes, as we look out into the future, are only going to expect that we have higher performance of energy efficiency standards to deal with electric vehicles and greener environments. And those are some things that really appeal to me. But we're a full service insulation company, and our primary focus is on spray foam insulation, which is the largest growing segment or the fastest growing segment in that product category.
That's interesting because energy, obviously, or energy efficiency has become a big topic, or a big conversation. We won't take a dive into it politically, but uh, energy efficiency is important. I mean, it obviously saves dollars. Um, where are you seeing? Um, what is the character or background of people that are inquiring about iFOAM? What are you looking for in an iFOAM franchisee? Where are those characteristics?
It's been quite interesting now. We have, I believe, 40 plus franchisees in the iFOAM system today, and continuing to rapidly grow in that category. But they all have really diverse backgrounds. I'd say most of them, like to generally say, none of them came from the construction or the insulation side. They brought with them professional experience. Some were mostly in white collar categories, and I think why we're seeing so much success there is because they're bringing the baseline entrepreneurial skills, and they're able to accelerate with our system. We're the experts in the insulation space, or we hire the experts in the team. And so they're able to deploy that and take advantage of this great industry without coming in with knowing how to already swing a hammer.
So it's safe to say that when you're talking with someone, you're not looking for somebody who, quote, I like to refer to as get behind the griddle and flip a burger. You're really looking for somebody who can provide oversight management, uh, kind of manage the business, all aspects of the business, and hire the people to help them manage the business and go from there.
1,000%. Personally, I believe that you should always be willing to wear any hat in your
Mm-hmm.
business, but if you're wearing all of the hats, you're not going to build a very big business. And when you look at what we've built at iFOAM, this is a really large scale business. We're in all three verticals when we look across the market segment: existing residential, new construction, and commercial. And so that'll be a big growing business. If you're the one out there spraying foam or installing product, you're not running the business, you're doing the task. We're looking for the manager of that operation or the CEO of that operation, so that way they can focus on scaling.
One of the things that has always impressed me about horsepower brands, and I've seen, Josh and Zach grow individually, grow as a company, bringing on the brands that you have, whether it's Blingo, Mighty Dog Roofing, I mean, the list goes on, and iFOAM now, is that when traditional consultants, when we talk about service-based businesses, and that this is the category we're in, service-based, is one of the big focuses as a consultant that we like to focus in on service-based is a sales aptitude. Now, I'm not talking about being that Willie Loman where you're knocking on doors or dialing for dollars and carrying a briefcase around, but the back end of horsepower and the support that you give people coming in that may not have that sales aptitude expertise is second to none, because you're loaded on the back end when it comes to marketing, sales support, call center, operational support. So maybe share a little bit about that, because it's always fascinating to me when I get on the phone with and talk to people, or podcast phone conversations with horsepower representatives and their brands, is the back end of this FSO, the franchise sales organization of horsepower.
I mean, I think there's different types of organizations that you can grow, different types of franchise systems. In some franchise systems, you're going to be the guy who does everything in the business. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I mean, owning your own job, I can say that in a positive or a negative. If you can replace your income, you call the shots, great. But that's not really scaling to where things can go. And that's where we come in, is setting up franchisees with the infrastructure that they can leverage our systems, our processes, our infrastructure to help out with everything from finding people, training people, and then growing and scaling the business. That way you can run a big enterprise. It's a whole different ball game. And that's really what we put our focus on, is how can we put that bigger scale and a different trajectory on there, where we're not just selling somebody a new job.
So there, in a sense, though, that there is this sales aptitude, this ability to go meet with people, obviously a presentation, meeting with homeowners, business owners. But as far as the back end to that, the scheduling, the call center, I know Horsepower has an HR recruitment center to help find people to work in the industry or work in that particular location. Is somebody coming in as a franchisee with iFOAM, should they feel comfortable knowing that they got that back end support?
Absolutely. But I think, to directly address that, like there's every single business has a sales element. iFOAM certainly does. But if you're not the salesperson, that's where you're going to leverage the systems to support the recruiting.
Right.
Hire a salesperson. And that's my advice, whether you're looking at iFOAM or anything else. If you're not a salesperson, don't try to do sales. It'll cost you more money than you'll make.
Right. One of the questions I get, we're talking to Steve Reppert, who's franchise development over at Horsepower Brands, working on the iPhone brand. I'm Scotty Milas, the host of All Things Considered Franchising. One of the things that I always hear from potential people that I'm talking to is the term semi-absentee. And everybody has a different definition. Well, I'm just looking to hire a manager to run the business, and I just want to kind of be in the oversight 10 hours a week or 10 hours a month, whatever it is. Tell us a little bit about whether iPhone fits into that semi-absentee category, or are you really looking for somebody who's going to take the helm for 6, 12, 18 months, build the business, and then build that management team to run the business?
I think the key to any business is managing the relationships with your people. Within iFOAM, I believe greater than half of our system starts a business from day one with a general manager in place. And I don't know, maybe 80+% of those actually leverage at our recruiting department to find that individual. But I think we're even trying to update some of the terminology to semi-involved instead of semi-absentee. Because I think absentee is a little bit confusing when you say semi-absentee, because a business is not your 401k or buying stocks. You don't just write a check and put it in there. It's going to grow based off of how effective you can make things work. There are people who can really manage people really well, and they are also good at protecting their time. If you're not good at protecting your time, you're going to spend a lot of time in there doing things for your employees instead of instructing your employees how to do it. So I think that also comes in where we've put a lot of focus on entrepreneurial support. You'll hear the team and some of the founders of Horsepower, Zach and Josh, talk about traction and EOS, which is a business management strategy. We put a lot of focus in those categories because we also know that's what's going to scale larger businesses. If the franchisee is, again, doing all of those tasks, they can be effective, but they can't scale if they're putting out all the little fires that happen throughout a business. They need to focus on managing the people so the people can make decisions. I've even personally lived that myself, not letting people make decisions.
Right. But I think also, when it comes to decisions, good entrepreneurs, people that, can follow a system, put themselves in a position where they can eventually make a decision. People who are undecisive, I think, aren't necessarily great entrepreneurs. I have a client I'm working with right now that just can't make a decision. And, I think the bottom line is, I told him, I said, you just got to let go, because if you can't make a decision on this, how are you going to make a decision when you own a business? I mean, sometimes decisions have to be done in a timely manner. It's interesting. So, just to recap here, it sounds like that there's a lot of support on the back end from Horsepower for somebody who's coming in as an iPhone franchisee. That's not to say that Horsepower Brands is running the business for the franchisee. So I want to make sure that we put that out there, because there are people that think because they invest in a franchise that they can it's the franchisor's responsibility to run the business. That's not how it works.
Correct.
So now, one of the other things that I've heard about the Horsepower Brands is that there's potential tie-in to the other services or other things the other brands are offering. Does iPhone get involved in anything other than residential or commercial insulation spraying? Are there any services other than the foam itself?
Well, it depends on what direction of question. I mean, we are a full service insulation company, so we actually do
Okay.
fiberglass and cellulose. So, really, quite frankly, if there are structures, there are opportunities in iFOAM because we service them
Okay.
all. We like older homes. We like brand new projects. We even really like metal buildings, which in some parts of a community, those might be related to industrial applications. In other communities in the rural areas, those could be barn dominiums or agricultural types of structures.
Okay. So again, it's kind of a bigger blimp on the radar as far as the services. It's not one small dot that you're going in and trying to grab. So, and I always tell people that spray foam insulation is. There are other companies that do this, but like anything, you just got to be better than everybody else. And it sounds like you're offering your franchisees the tools and the technology to be better than others.
I think some things that really impressed me is and part of this is horsepower and their ability to work with vendors and have experience in kind of maximizing those relationships that all franchise systems needs, and then also the actual iFOAM team themselves. I always do like to drive home with anybody as they look at kind of anything from us, like the infrastructure around the corporate level of support for iFOAM is a standalone entity, and it's impressive all by itself. The advantages that come along with horsepower are icing on the cake, realistically.
Right, right. It's interesting because franchising. People that are interested in investing in a franchising, with a brand like iFOAM, really brings the opportunity for this uh, building a big business model, multiple territories, multiple, eventual, wealth, building wealth, I guess is the way to look at it. So, I mean, it's not just buying a job, it's building this empire, so to speak. And I think that's the beauty of franchising. It's it's the opportunity to have other territories or other units, as they say, that you can add to your portfolio.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Steve, is there anything you want to add here? I mean, any thoughts about, if anybody's on the fence, no pun intended, about picking up the phone and reaching out to you and wanting to talk? I mean, if you're going to talk, say, I'm a believer in learning. I mean, give yourself an opportunity to learn. So if somebody was kind of hesitating, any words of wisdom?
Uh, my first words of wisdom would be maybe connect with yourself and get kind of some core fundamentals of what's important to you, because like I don't know that anybody has ever got on the phone with me, at least very often, and said, boy, I've just been dreaming since I was 10 years old to be an insulation contractor.
Exactly what I was going to say.
uh,
Great point.
that's pretty dang rare. Now the industry is really exciting, and when you start getting into the economies of scale within this business, when you start looking at the forecast for the industry, because of those energy elements, because of the importance of those drivers, this is a really big business. Because when I think of some things, I look out and I say, well, shoot, if you were going to get into this business, the goal is to plot myself into this marketplace. And in this 5 mile square area, I want 2 to maybe 10% market share, whatever. And that's my pie, right? I gotta grab some of those percentages. Within this business, the marketplace is attractive today, but as you look over the course of the next decade, that's where a lot of those building code elements and continual and we kind of skirted around a little bit. I like to hit it head on. I don't think it matters which political party you are, because whether you want to call it energy independence from one side or you want to call it climate change, both of those are the same problem. We want to
Yes.
get more
Yep.
energy efficient to be more independent, and insulation fits in both of those categories quite well.
Yeah, but also insulation, and that's a great point. But insulation is also a need, not necessarily a want, and it also is a recession resistant technology resistant, meaning it isn't something you're going to order on Amazon. I mean, I guess you could order the old traditional foam and try to install it yourself, but it is a need. It's not a want.
100%. Nobody upgrades their insulation to keep up with their next door neighbor, the Joneses. They're doing this because they have a problem. Maybe the humidity's
Right.
too high in their home. Maybe their utility bill's too high. Maybe upstairs in the summertime is uncomfortable compared to the downstairs, and so they need a solution to that. We come in on that category. It's a space that we're filling that demand with more professionalism and out-competing.
That's great. Well, Steve, I've enjoyed our conversation. We've been talking to Steve Reppert, who is Director of Franchise Development for iFOAM, a horsepower brand opportunity. Steve, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, is LinkedIn the best way to reach out? Obviously, someone can reach out to me to learn more about iFOAM and some of the other opportunities over at Horsepower. But LinkedIn, we'll post it up there, the link to connect with you. Any closing comments? Any thoughts?
Definitely LinkedIn. My TikTok followers are zero, unfortunately. I'm not
You and me both. The only TikTok I have is on my watch, and it's not even a TikTok anymore. It's digital. So anyway, thank you. Thanks, Steve. We've been talking again with Steve Reppert, Director of Franchise Development at Horsepower Brands, focusing on the iFOAM brand. I'm Scotty Milas, the host of All Things Considered Franchising. For those of you who have questions about franchising or iFOAM in general, please reach out to me as well at 860-751-9126, or you can email me, scott@scottmilasfranchisecoach.com, or visit my website, scottmilasfranchisecoach.com. Steve, again, thanks very much. We hope to get you back in the next 6 to 8 months, get an update on where iFOAM is. But until then, this is Scotty Milas. Enjoy the day, and we will catch you on the next episode.